Hello to everyone, and thank you for joining. As I mentioned before, Toastmaster Richa, she's a past president of the Crusaders Club in Nicosia, and she's a youth leadership coordinator for the third year in a row. I'm the division director for Division B, and also a youth leadership coordinator for third year in a row. And today we're going to go step by step and see how you can launch a youth leadership program in your community. So the youth leadership program is a workshop consisting of 8 1 to 2 hour sessions, and it helps students to develop communication and leadership skills through practical experience. And practical experience, I highlight this part, is very important because, as we say to the students, the only way to learn public speaking and leadership is by practicing. And the youth leadership program, the manuals we have from Toastmasters International, have practical experiences, practical examples, and we help the students to actually practice during each session. What are the benefits for the students to start with? First of all, they learn the basics of structuring a speech, and they also learn the basics of the Toastmasters program. They learn to evaluate their present speaking ability, they learn to evaluate other students, they learn to give table topics or impromptu talks, and they learn how to control voice, vocabulary, and gestures, and of course how to give constructive feedback. Now, what are the benefits for the club? Before, with the previous educational program, every member who was a coordinator could receive the Advanced Communicator Gold Awards. We don't know yet for the Pathways program what's their respective award. I don't know if maybe Toastmaster Richa knows and if she can inform us. But we will find out and send you the information if you want us to tell you exactly what are the rewards you can get. Also, the benefits for the club that is running this program is that it promotes the club to the local community and to schools. And as I mentioned before, at the end of each program, we organize a youth leadership contest where we invite parents, teachers, schools. We have media coverage, and this gives exposure to our clubs and to Toastmasters in our areas. And in consequence, it helps to attract new members. Parents, teachers learn about our activities, especially teachers who are people who are actually speaking every day in front of a crowd and they feel the need to improve. It's also a target market for us, and it's good to interact with them through this program. And also another important benefit is that we have the opportunity to practice outside of a club environment. Because as we know, a club environment is a very safe environment. At some point we know each other and it becomes a routine environment to practice. Therefore, if you practice in front of students, in front of kids, it creates an extra challenge where it pushes you to become better and to improve in public speaking and even leadership. What do you need to know? The basics of launching a youth leadership program. Each youth leadership program group is limited to 25 people. 25 is the maximum. I will recommend to have maximum 15. And the reason is that usually you need 4 to 5 students to give a speech for each session. More, it would be a problem. You will not have the time to run a complete session according to the Toastmasters International guidelines. Now, the decision to present a youth leadership program is made by your club's executive committee. This program is a club program. It's not a division, it's not an area, it's not a district program. It's entirely upon the club and the executive committee to decide to run a youth leadership program, and they should find the sponsors and the money to launch this program. That's why I'm emphasizing that this should be a club decision, because you will need support from your club and you will need the resources of your club to launch this program. The club serves as a sponsor and provides usually 2 coordinators to present the program. And usually the coordinator appoints an assistant or they work together with another Toastmaster. And usually the Toastmasters are members who have flexible work schedule. Usually you have to go immediately after school hours between 2 and 4 to teach this program to kids. And the coordinator should have completed at least 6 projects in the Combined Communicator Manual. With the pathways, again, we'll have to check and let you know the requirements for the pathways program. And this is for obvious reasons, because the first 6 projects in the Combined Communicator Manual were the basics of delivering a speech. It was a step-by-step process. So we need an experienced Toastmaster who is able to teach the kids the basics of how to give a speech and how to write a speech. Usually the meetings follow a format similar to that of a Toastmasters Club meeting. So we have a committee. The students form executive committee. Students learn how to evaluate each other. And then we have table topics. We have prepared speeches. We have parliamentary procedure. It follows the Toastmasters program to some extent. That's why we need experienced Toastmasters. And that's why only Toastmasters can teach this program. We cannot assign a teacher, a school teacher who is not a Toastmaster to teach this program. Another important thing you should know is that this program should be free for participants. And adaptations of the program are a violation of copyright and do not qualify for an award. You cannot adapt the program to your own needs or to find another program outside of Toastmasters and use parts of that program. It is a structured program. We get manuals from Toastmasters International. We purchase the manuals from the Toastmasters International shop, and then we give these manuals to the students. And it is free for students. We never ask students or parents to pay for this program, or not even the school. This program should be free, and usually the cost is covered by the club, by the local club. And only one club can act as a sponsoring club in order to get the credits. You cannot have 2 clubs sponsoring one program. One club sponsors one program. But of course you can have multiple programs and one club can sponsor more than one program. Now, how do you get participants? This is a question that we often get from Toastmasters, and it's indeed a bit difficult to start, but when you start the program, you will find out that later, when you get exposure, more schools will come and ask to participate. So what we did in Cyprus, maybe Richa would like to share with us what we did. Richa, would you like to share?
Yes, so in Cyprus, basically, we contacted the schools where many of our Toastmasters had their kids studying, or we knew some teacher at the school, or we had some kind of association with the school, so that we were not a totally unknown identity. Then we went there, we took a time, and like we do for starting a new club, we did a demo meeting, a demo youth leadership meeting, explaining what we are going to do, what we are going to work with, how the whole program is going to run, what are the benefits. Then most of the schools, they put it on their, like in Cyprus, the schools have got after school club activities. So most of the schools put it as an after school activity down for their kids. And they called for registrations. They informed the classes of the age group that we said. And then accordingly, based on the student registration, if we had a sufficient number of students in that particular school interested, we started the program in that particular school.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, as Toastmaster Richa said, it was a team effort, and we had to contact schools and invite them to presentation. And we contacted private schools because in Cyprus it's much easier to go contact directly a school and go and teach a program there. Whereas instead, if you want to teach this program to a public school, you have to contact the Ministry of Education, you have to send official letters. It takes time, there is a bureaucracy, and you have to get an approval. So it takes time, and it's a bit more difficult to teach this program in a public school. Also, because the manuals are in English, and usually private schools here have the language of teaching in English, for us it was much easier to run this program in private schools, whereas in public schools, the language is in Greek. And this more or less probably applies to your countries as well. You can also contact community centers, youth centers, or youth organizations like Rotaractors, any other youth organization that you have in your country where they can gather 15 kids and help you to launch this program. Now, you may wonder what are the costs associated with the youth leadership program. So if you decide to purchase a youth leadership kit from the Toastmasters International website, the cost for 15 students will be $51. I believe it's a very logical cost. $51 can be gathered within a club by every member giving €5. And you can immediately find the money to purchase the manuals, and then you can contact the school, purchase the manuals, take the manuals, and start the program. You don't have any other expenses except the manuals. And if you decide to have a contest at the end of the program, then you can find some sponsors to help you also with the contest. But if you decide to have this program, the only cost you have is the purchase of manuals and the time you spend as Toastmasters to visit the school and teach the program to the kids. Now, a typical agenda. Here is an example of an agenda we used at grammar school. It was the first time we ran the program back in 2016. The president is the student president, the president of the students. There are elections, and the students elect a committee, and we agree with the president to start the program, to give an inspirational message and to welcome members. We have a secretary that shares the report, and then the students introduce the coordinators. And then usually we have a presentation of speeches, 4 or 5 speeches by students. We have a break, and then we go to the evaluation of speeches. We teach them how to evaluate speeches. We even have students evaluating each other. We have some extra educational activities. Then we give them the assignments for the next session. A typical program is around 2 hours. That's a recommended time from Toastmasters International. And now I will go through step by step the 8 sessions. As I said, the program consists of 8 sessions, 2 hours each. And the first session is basically you introduce the program to the students. You tell them more about how to write a speech, how to deliver a speech. You show them some videos. And there is also a nice breaker exercise so they can find out more about each other. And the manual provides all these exercises. The exercise you see now on the slide is from the workbook, the youth leadership workbook that we give to the students. And also at the first session, they have to elect a committee. This is a bit more challenging because we have 15 students that most of them do not know each other, and we have to ask them to vote for a president, vice president, secretary, and sergeant at arms. And another challenge is that they have to conduct the election by slate, which we don't have this in our clubs. So they have to decide who will be a president, vice president, secretary, sergeant at arms, and they have to nominate each other and form 2 different groups. And then they have to vote for a specific team, for a slate. But we found out that this creates excitement with students. They form lobbies. We allow them 15 minutes break to go out of the classroom and to start discussing who they want to nominate, who wants to become a president. The president learns how to lobby and how to convince others. So it's a nice exercise to get to know each other. And here is the slide with the roles for the president, the vice president, the secretary, and the sergeant at arms. As you can see, the responsibilities are very basic. We don't ask them to spend much time for each role. It's mainly just to understand and get a vibe of how it is to have a leadership position and how it is to have a responsibility. And at the end of the session 1, we assign them to speeches. We assign usually 4 students. If we have 15, it will be 5 students for session 2, 5 students for session 3, and 5 students for session 4. And we ask them to prepare a 4 to 5 minute speech. We show them some videos, we send them a material, and we allow them 2 weeks to prepare for their icebreaker speech. Now, in session 2, we start with the presentation of speeches, and we have evaluation of speeches. Session 3, usually we follow a similar agenda. Session 3 again has a presentation of speeches, evaluation, and then we introduce also impromptu speaking, table topics. We explain to them what's table topics, and we have an exercise in group discussion, which you can find inside the manual. You can see here an example of a typical table topic for students. We try to give them table topics that are normal for their age. For example, grades don't matter. Do you agree or disagree with the previous statement? Please explain. And we allow them to stand up and speak for 2 minutes or as long as they feel comfortable. Now, session 4 is organizing your speech. There is a format, as you can see here on the slides, and they can find this format at the end of their workbook. It shows how you structure, how you organize a speech. And again, because the first speech is now over, everybody gave their icebreaker speech. Now we divide them again in 3 groups so they can give their second speech. Overall, everybody should give at least 2 speeches during the Youth Leadership Program. Session 5, they learn more about listening and parliamentary procedure. As you can see here, again, it's an exercise from the manual. It's a basic exercise so they can listen to each other. And regarding parliamentary procedure, again, another reason that we need experienced Toastmasters is that you have to be able to explain to them the basics of the parliamentary procedure. Session 6 is about gestures during speeches. And again, that's why it's important to have completed the first 6 speeches from the Competent Communicator Manual, because the Youth Leadership Program is also structured around this. Now, you can see here an example of a motion that we gave to students, and because we wanted to make it easy for them, we just covered the motion, the amendment, and a subsidiary motion. And we gave a topic that is very logical for a student who is 15, 16 years old. Session 7 is about voice and vocabulary. We go together through some practical examples, through some exercises on voice. And session 8, it's where they have the opportunity to practice. We can plan a special event in their school or in the community. Usually what we do in Cyprus is that we discuss this with the school, and they give us a free room, they give us their conference room, and they invite some classes so they can come. We go early in the morning around 8 or 9, and we have 100 kids coming to see their fellow students actually presenting in front of them. And this is good for our students, or the Youth Leadership Program students, because they actually have the opportunity to practice in front of an audience of 100 people. And also we give them a prize, a reward for the best public speaker. And as I mentioned, at the end of the program, the kids receive a Youth Leadership Program certificate, which they can use later in their CV or when they apply for the university. And here you can see an actual picture of the Youth Leadership Program in Nicosia, where a student is competing with others and presenting in front of an audience. At this point, together with Richa, we're going to answer your questions. But first, I would like to ask Richa to share her experience in running the Youth Leadership Program in Nicosia, and if she used some different techniques or she adapted a bit the program. Richa, how was your experience running the program?
Well, when we started the program for the first year in Falcon School, we followed everything to the letter in the manuals. We went exactly step by step. And in Falcon that year, the kids were of the age group 15 plus. So they had already been doing a bit of European Youth Parliament. They had been doing a bit of Mediman. So it was easy to explain them the speech techniques. But there was a little less interest in that age group. Only the ones who were weaker, they wanted to develop more. The next year, we focused more on the age group of 13, 14, 15 years. And that turned out to be better because that age group took it up as an added advantage, because they knew that after they were 15 years, they would be participating in these things like the European Youth Parliament and Mediman, so this will come handy. So there was more enthusiasm. So for now, at least in Falcon, we are keeping it up to the age group of 15 years, and those above 15 who are really interested can also join, but the major chunk of students is under 15. The parliamentary procedures and taking care of the motion, that was something which our personal experience at Falcon was, which the kids were less interested in. They were more interested in learning the speech techniques. They were more interested in doing impromptu speaking. Impromptu speaking table topics are a big hit with all students. And like as Toastmasters, we are always scared of table topics. We prefer to do prepared speeches. But when you deal with these kids at school, it is surprising to see that they are more interested in doing table topics, because they feel then they don't have to think too much. They can be themselves. So we do table topics at an earlier session. We start table topics right from session 2. Mm-hmm. These are few changes that we made from the structure that is laid out, depending on our experience at this particular school. Now, these things are not like a rule. They depend from school to school, from the kind of age group you are dealing with the kind of kids, their response. So every year we adapt as per the group of kids that we have.